anyone here who needs instruction on the clickers who wasn't here this morning? Okay. Looks like everyone's good. Great.
It would come just for the second half.
We're going to start, we're going to continue with the budget, beginning with line 710 under debt service. Again, I'll read each line off. If you have a question or concern, please say hold and hold up your orange card so I can see you, and we'll come back to that after we vote on the items that have no questions. Under debt service, principal and interest, $6,272,642. Under unclassified, $1,415,635. Under employee benefits and miscellaneous, $9,996,212. Under transfers to and from trusts, $11,197,061. Okay. Under Community Preservation Fund, $1,079,350. Under the Water Enterprise Fund, $4,639,225. Under Recreation Enterprise Fund, $1,356,805. Under Ambulance Enterprise Fund, $1,464,944. And under Stormwater Enterprise Fund for Stormwater Management, $1,262,732. So we have a hold on transfers to and from trusts. Let's vote on the rest of the items before we get to that. All in favor of the other items raised, raise your orange cards. Okay, put them down. All opposed? They pass, not unanimously. At the center microphone, the question on transfers to and from trusts.
Bob Carter, 8 Nutting Road. Can we get an explanation as to what this is and the increase in over 1,500%? Thank you.
Dan O'Donnell, Director of Finance.
Yeah, so this is the new health insurance trust. Health insurance for active employees was originally under the 945 budget. However, you see that large decrease there. That's now in the transfer from trust. So it's just a proper accounting to move that into this other line item. So it's a shift in expenses.
Any other questions or concerns on that item? Seeing none, we'll take the vote on that. All in favor, please raise your orange cards. Put them down, please. All opposed? The motion passes. It is not unanimous. Okay. All line items have now been voted and any questions have been answered. Town Council advises that we do a final vote approving the budget as a whole and the sources of funding it names. So all those in favor of the motion under Article 11 that the town raise and appropriate the sum of $126,569,270 for the operation and maintenance of town departments for the fiscal year July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023, as set forth on page 9 of your motions booklet. Please raise your cards. Okay, down please. All opposed? The motion passes. It is not unanimous. Okay. Article 12 was disposed of you this morning very expeditiously as part of the consent agenda, so we're at Article 13. Under Article 13, I have a motion that the town transfer $33,448 from the Water Enterprise Other Post-Employment Stabilization Fund to the Water Enterprise Expenses Account to pay for fiscal year 2023 retiree benefits. Is there a second? Thank you. Dan, do you want to explain this?
So this is an article that we have every year. This money is being transferred to the Water Enterprise to pay for health and life insurance for Water Enterprise retirees.
Any questions on that? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. This is a 2/3 vote, so we'll be using our clickers. Again, if anybody needs instruction on the clickers, let me know. So if you're voting yes for the motion under Article 13, press the green button. If you're voting no, press the red button. Voting is now open. Five more seconds and I'll close the vote. Voting is now closed.
149 yes, 3 no, 152 total, it passes.
The motion passes by 2/3. The vote is 149 in favor and 3 against. Under Article 14, I have a motion that the Select Board be authorized to accept certain easements, including but not limited to a sidewalk and trail easement on Balsam Circle, known as 21 and 23 Carlisle Road, a trail easement in the Colonel Rolls Drive subdivision, known as 0, 19, 33, and 35 Hartford Road, a trail easement at the Juniper Hills Estate subdivision, 75 Graniteville Road, a trail easement at the Cloverleaf Fields subdivision at 22 Griffin Road, a trail easement at the Diane Lane subdivision, 0 and 37 Carlisle Road, a trail easement at 71 Powers Road, and a trail easement at Wendell Place. Is there a second? Thank you. Are there any questions or comments about this article? All right, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. This is a majority vote only, so we'll be using your cards. All those in favor of the motion under Article 14, please raise your cards. Down, please. All opposed? The motion passes. It is not unanimous. Under Article 15, I have a motion that the Select Board be authorized to acquire by purchase, gift, eminent domain, or otherwise on such terms and conditions as the Select Board shall determine permanent and/or temporary easements on the parcels of land shown on plans entitled Transportation Improvement Project Plan of Plain Road Sidewalk dated November 19, 2021, and to take all necessary actions related thereto. Is there a second? Are there any questions or concerns about this article? All right, seeing none. All those in favor of the motion under Article 15, please raise your orange cards. Down, please. All opposed? The motion passes. It is not unanimous. Under Article 16, I have a motion that the town vote to accept the provisions of Mass General Laws, Chapter 90, Section 17C, so as to allow the Select Board to establish a speed limit of 25 miles per hour on certain roadways inside thickly settled or business districts in the town. Is there a second? have Tom Mills Hinkle from the Pedestrian Safety Committee. Is Tom, oh, here he comes. Don't rush, we're all waiting for you.
He's not helping pedestrian safety by running.
Thank you, Tom. Catch your breath.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. All right, so in 2016, Massachusetts created a new law which gives municipalities a way to reduce speeds on local roadways, MGL Chapter 90, Section 17C. It allows towns to reduce statutory speed limits from 30 to 25 miles an hour on any and all city or town-owned roadways within a thickly settled or business district. This 2016 law gives towns an opportunity to help reduce speeds on roadways with pedestrians and other vulnerable road users, but the town meeting has to opt in. The article on the warrant would opt Westford into this law, which the select board would then apply to 4 local roadways. There are 3 basic reasons to adopt this law. 1, pedestrians are at risk on our roadways. Nationwide, pedestrian deaths have been going up for over a decade. For every 2 pedestrians killed in 2010, there were 3 pedestrians killed in 2020. Most pedestrian fatalities are on local roads like the ones this law affects. 2, speed matters, and it matters most at the range of speeds we are talking about on local roads, between 20 and 40 miles an hour. According to the AAA Foundation for Traffic Safety, a pedestrian struck at 30 miles an hour faces a 50% chance of fatality or serious injury. If that car slows to 20, the chance of severe injury falls to 1 in 5. On the other hand, if the car speeds to 40, the chance of survival falls by half, with 77% of crashes resulting in a fatality or severe injury. Speed differences in the range of 20 to 40 miles an hour are a matter of life and death. 3, speed limits really do change behavior. Now, we all know most drivers exceed the speed limit, but studies show, not surprisingly, that drivers go faster when the limits are faster. More specifically, a recent study of Boston, conducted before and after the implementation of Section 17C, confirmed that reducing speed limits to 25 miles an hour reduced the observed speeds of vehicles. After Boston adopted the law, the chances of a driver exceeding 35 miles an hour fell by 29%. The chance of them going over 30 fell by 8.5%. Recall, those are the speeds exactly at the tipping point for pedestrian fatality. Now, outside of Section 17C, there's little that towns can do to reduce speed limits. Changing speed limits on roadways requires conducting expensive speed studies first, and the result of those studies, which are based on observed vehicle speeds, can just as well be that speeds go up rather than down. This law lets Westford reduce speeds without those speed studies. Section 17C gives towns the option to adopt speed limits for thickly settled roads on a town-wide or a street-by-street basis. Most communities in Massachusetts have chosen the town-wide basis, including Acton, Concord, and Sudbury, but others have adopted it on a street-by-street basis, including our neighbors, Harvard and Billerica. The Westford Police Department and the Select Board have supported us adopting it here on a street-by-street basis, as Harvard and Billerica have already done. Given that recommendation, the Pedestrian Safety Committee was charged with selecting a set of roads to recommend to the Select Board for them to apply 17C for. We selected roads that were thickly settled, that had significant numbers of pedestrians and cyclists, and that were near schools, parks, or other municipal buildings. The 4 roads we're recommending the Select Board apply this law to, should town meeting adopt it, are Main Street, West Prescott Street, Pleasant Street, and Patton Road. The Pedestrian Safety Committee notified abutters of these roads and invited them to a meeting in March to get community feedback. The vast majority of residents who attended that meeting spoke in support of the measure, and the voices of residents confirmed that the speed of traffic is a real issue for pedestrians in those neighborhoods. I have to say, I rode each one of those roads this morning just to check them out, and if you go through those roads, you'll see many of the residents have signs up asking drivers to please slow down. So this is on residents' minds. The sections of road we're looking at are short. Traveling at 25 versus 30 miles an hour takes only an additional 30 seconds for a mile, while it reduces the chance of fatality for a pedestrian by nearly half. Reducing speed on our roadways is one of the simplest, most cost-effective things we can do to protect our community. Section 17C gives us a way to just do just that. So the Pedestrian Safety Committee recommends that town meeting accept the provisions of MGL Chapter 90, Section 17C, to allow the Select Board to establish a speed limit of 25 miles per hour on certain roadways. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Georgia, are you two To my left.
Alan Martin, Meadow Lane. After Boston reduced the speed limits in the city, did pedestrian fatalities go down or did they go up?
You may as well stay up here, Tom. There may be some questions you need to answer.
Good question. I don't know that we have data on that. There was a study done of speeds in Boston. I mean, to give you a sense, the pedestrian fatalities in Massachusetts have gone up in 2021 compared to 2020, which was an odd year. I mean, 2020 with COVID was an unusual year. In general, we're looking at on the order of 7,000 fatalities nationally, 70 in Massachusetts. So these are rare enough events, I don't think you would see something of statistical significance within a short window of time.
Thank you. The center microphone?
Bob Krankowitz, Boston Road. I'm curious as to why Boston Road wasn't included in the 4 streets. It's a very dangerous road. I've lived there for 31 years. And when you cross that road, you take your life in your hands. We have a number of dogs that have been killed on that road. We've had people who have been hit by cars. Please explain.
Yep.
So I think it's possible someone from the town could explain better. I know that certain roads, like Route 40, and I'm not sure if Boston Road counts, are state roads that are outside of the purview of roads we could consider. I think Boston Road probably does qualify as thickly settled for most of it. The other part of this law is we have to indicate which areas are thickly settled, so that was one of the criterion. I believe Boston Road would satisfy that.
Is there someone from the town who might clarify? Thank you, Steve. Steve Cronin.
So we did evaluate the speed on Boston Road as part of the design process for the reconstruction. They actually recommended a slightly higher speed, but as part of the design process, we were able to reduce that recommendation down to 30 miles per hour. So once that project is completed, there'll be a statutory speed limit on that road of 30 miles an hour.
Thank you. Madam Moderator, I'd
Yes,
like to
Bob.
propose an amendment to the warrant article
What is your amendment?
to include Boston Road in the other 4
So,
streets. So
Bob,
named.
the article doesn't specify any particular roadways. The article gives the Select Board the authority to designate certain roadways under this. What the town is doing under this article is accepting Chapter 90, Section 17C, which then allows the next step of the Select Board selecting particular roadways. Does anybody want to address that, or am I? Okay.
Well, why was the 4 streets named and not Boston Road?
So, yeah, the Pedestrian Safety Committee was asked by the Select Board to identify 4 streets to begin with. We had originally looked at adopting it townwide. I think one of the pieces of feedback from the Westford Police Department was that they thought that might confuse drivers. The options for this law, if you adopt it townwide at the entrances to the town, and you may have seen these in Concord, you put up a sign that says, town-wide speed limit 25 miles an hour, we're thickly settled, except where otherwise marked. So those can be quite confusing. So what the town is doing will allow us to put up signs that say thickly settled 25 on distinct roads, and I believe the goal was to start with some roads, but the way this warrant is written would allow the Select Board to expand the list of roads over time. So the article does not list the 4 roads. We were asked to bring them to the Select Board. I believe that's the plan. Certainly, I think people in the town could ask, the Select Board to consider other towns in the future, other roads going forward.
And Bob, Town Council's going to address your question as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, through you, Madam Moderator. Yeah, so just to reiterate now, the question before you is whether you wish to accept the statute and then to give the Select Board the authority to designate certain ways as being limited to 25 miles per hour. If there are particular ways that you are concerned about, then you can bring that to the Select Board and they'll decide whether or not those ways are designated. But the vote here is only whether or not to accept the statute and give them that authority.
Thank you.
At the microphone to my right.
Denali Delmar, 8 Dunstable Road. Well, here I am again, and you know, it's really next to impossible to drive 25 miles an hour. When I am in a school area where it says 20 miles an hour, I slow way down. It's next to impossible to slow down to 20 miles an hour. We do not need slower speed limits. We need enforcement of the speed limits that we have, period. I have nothing more to say about that. Please enforce them.
And at the same microphone.
Lisa Nakash in Holsburg, 6 Betty Lane. I do have a few questions. First about the money. Who makes the money? Who spends the money? So if our police issue more tickets, where is that revenue going? How much is this going to cost for signage? Where in town isn't thickly settled or a business district under which this chapter that we're voting for would apply? I'm thinking nearly all of the town could be 25 miles an hour if we're going to go by the definition. And also, Route 40 is state numbered but town-owned. Route 110 is a state highway. I don't remember what 225 is, so how would this apply to those roads?
Okay, let's take your questions one or two at a time so that we can remember what they are.
I was trying to meet the 2-minute quick.
Tom, maybe you could answer the question about what constitutes thickly settled and how it pertains to Route 40 and 110.
So, and I'm sorry, without media, I don't have a map to show you, but we did ask, the Pedestrian Safety Committee asked the town, I'm not sure who did it for us, a GIS service to draw up a map with the, I think it's 100-foot, whatever the radius is that the law says, 200 feet around houses. It is not every road in town, but you're right that it is many, many roads that could, in theory, qualify. My understanding is the select board is looking at beginning with 4 roads. I think there was a somewhat conservative approach to where we would start. As far as the money, the law 17C does not change fines at all, so the speeding fines are the same with this law as with others. I think the standard penalty is $105 with an additional 10 for every mile beyond 10 miles over the limit.
And can you or someone else from the town answer the question about the changes in signage and how that would be done and paid for? You can do it, Steve.
Yeah, I was going to say, how much do signs cost?
Unfortunately, I can't give you an exact figure on how much it's going to cost for all the signage. We have gotten quotes, and I think it was roughly $75 per sign, but until we know exactly how many signs and where they're going to go, I don't have that exact figure.
Okay. The microphone to my left.
I'm sorry, I still had another question you asked me to take.
All right, let's get some other folks, and then I'll come back to you, Lisa.
Arnie Price, Oak Hill Road. I think you may have just defined it, but what is thickly settled as defined by the law?
Want to take that, Tom?
I don't know if someone from the town, it's funny, I noted all the fines and everything. Was it 200 feet? I think someone just looked it up. It's 17C. 200 feet between houses, over the distance of a quarter of a mile. And I think, in looking at roads, we wouldn't want to have the speed limit change every quarter of a mile, right? So you're looking for a road where that's a consistent pattern as opposed to where there's a dense portion of the road and then it stops being settled.
So if I could just have one follow-up, would this also pertain to state-owned roads? Like 110, 225, I think, is state-owned.
Paul Starrett, do you want to come up and answer that?
Yeah. Oh, good.
Since he seems very definitive back there.
Oh,
So.
he always is.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Paul Starrett, Town Engineer. So the Commonwealth of Massachusetts has jurisdiction over Littleton Road, Powers Road, and I believe that's it for right now. No, we would not be able to tell them how to set their speed limits on their roads.
Madam Moderator, if I might add, I know when we were looking at roads, I had asked about Cold Spring, which I just came down now as a frequently trafficked road, and Cold Spring is a road where we've done a speed study, and therefore we couldn't, I believe, change it is what I heard at that meeting. So there may be other roads where we don't necessarily always have the power to use this law, is my understanding.
Bob, do you have another question?
Well, it's more of a statement. I'd like to, for as far as speed enforcement on Boston Road, I want to commend the police department in their excellent approach to what we decided in a previous town meeting. And we really appreciate that very much, because Boston Road can get very tragically crazy. Thank you.
Thank you. And Alicia, do you have another question?
Yes, I did. Thank you. One, I wanted to ask, what is the statistics on injuries and deaths in town? Do we have any sense of whether it's been going up? Or is it a significant number that we're trying to solve? Also, Route 40 is a significant concern of mine, because while it's state numbered, it is town-owned. And so this law would apply to it, I believe, unless town council or someone wants to tell me otherwise. And I am concerned. I don't know many people who would feel comfortable driving 25 on a Route 40. This legislation would give the selectmen the authority to impose a 25 on a Route 40, which would be really difficult. So, guys, it doesn't happen often. Denali and I don't always agree, but today I want to say, why don't we enforce the laws we've got first before doing this?
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions? Oh, sorry. There you go.
Stephanie Granger, 3 Churchill Court. By passing this today, does that prevent us then from accepting a 25-mile-an-hour throughout the town speed limit?
Is there anybody that can answer that?
No, right?
Oh,
Council?
Greg? Town council will respond.
Thank you, through you, Madam Moderator. The answer is no. You're voting today to accept the statute and give the authority to the Select Board. The Select Board then has the flexibility to either impose a townwide or a street-by-street, and to make changes as it sees fit.
Thank you. One more.
Can you hear me okay? I'm being reminded by others who asked me to ask some of those questions that we didn't get the answers to the last few questions I asked.
That were
About-
what? I'm sorry.
We didn't get the answers to the last few questions I asked.
Which
about,
questions are you still looking for answers to?
About injuries, deaths, any statistics on that? Are we trying to solve a problem? And about Route 40.
So is there anyone who can answer whether or not injuries or deaths from traffic accidents have been going up or down or staying the same in Westford? I think that's the question.
Good afternoon, everyone. Mark Chambers, Chief of Police. There's not been enough of a statistical difference over at least the last 5 years that we looked at to determine whether it's gone up or down. So they've remained pretty steady.
And how about the question about Route 40 and whether or not this would apply to Route 40?
I would recommend the town engineer for that.
I'll take your recommendation, Chief. It's you again, Paul.
Paul Starrett, Town Engineer. While it may not be practical, I think within the confines of the law, they could do that. They could change the speed limit on Groton Road.
Okay. All right. Are there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. This is a majority vote, so we'll be using your orange cards. If you're in favor of the motion under Article 16 to accept the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 90, Section 17C, please raise your orange cards. All right, down, please. If you're opposed, please raise your card. The motion passes by a majority. It is not unanimous. Okay, we're at Article 17. Under Article 17, I have a motion to amend Chapters 51 and 22 of the general bylaws of the town of Westford to reduce the number of Finance Committee books to be printed and to discontinue mailing the Finance Committee books to all households. Is there a second to that motion? Okay. And Christina Green from the Finance Committee.
Thank you. So currently, everybody in Westford, every household, over 8,000 of them, receives via U.S. mail the Finance Committee report and recommendations, along with the full warrant for annual town meeting, which is this book that you received in your mail roughly 2 weeks ago. That cost to print and mail this year was $6,430 total. The proposal would be to still produce this booklet. So the Finance Committee would still be creating that booklet. The booklet would be available online on the town website. The book will also be available in print form at various locations around town, which include the Cameron Senior Center, the Town Hall, Police Station, and the Fletcher Library. Any resident who is unable to pick up a printed copy or use the online version for whatever reason can contact the town manager's office for a copy to be sent to them. A postcard, like the one that we receive for special town meeting, would be mailed to each household. So it would be roughly a single sheet of paper, which would include the meeting location, the time, the date, the summary of the warrant articles, the voter registration deadline, and how to obtain your electronic or printed copy. The benefits to this are an estimated cost savings of roughly $2,500 annually. That's not a huge savings, but it is something. Mostly it's waste savings. There are many books that end up hopefully in the recycling bin, but possibly in the trash without ever being read. There's also the savings of the paper to not print it in the first place. It also avoids issues finding a printer to produce the books. A few years ago, the Finance Committee had some issues, and we almost had to delay town meeting because we weren't going to get the books out in time. Just a brief history lesson. Some of you may remember that in 2011, a similar article was brought before town meeting, and it failed at that time. There are significant differences between that proposal and this proposal. The first, in 2011, the article eliminated all mailings. Now you will receive the one piece of paper in your mail telling you about town meeting. In 2011, it wasn't clear that hard copies of the entire book would be available for pickup. I'm making it very clear that full copies will be available at several locations around town. In 2011, there was no provision for those who could not pick up a hard copy, and as I mentioned, now residents can contact the town manager's office to receive a copy. Also in 2011, the town email or text notify system did not exist. Now residents can sign up for the Notify Me system to be alerted to town meeting information. So I hope that if anyone has any questions, obviously we'll take those, but I hope the town meeting considers this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. George, are you at the microphone there?
I am.
Okay.
George Murray, 14 Haywood Road. First of all, I just want to tip my hat to the Finance Committee, to all the town departments, and the town manager's office for the fantastic work that goes into the Finance Committee booklet every year. There almost isn't anything you could want to know about Westford and how it's run and how it's managed and what its people think are important topics than by reading the FinCom booklet. I'm here to urge you to defeat this article. We're taking this step to save roughly $2,500. It's going to reduce attendance at town meeting. And I find it ironic that we have a big study group looking for ways to improve and increase the attendance at town meeting, but now you're going to make it so that people have to go out of their way and go on a hunting expedition to try to find what used to show up in their mailbox. And I don't think I'm unusual compared to most voters. It comes in my mailbox. I glance at it and I say, oh yeah, town meeting's coming up, and I toss it onto the stand next to my chair. And over the next couple weeks, I read it cover to cover. I may be a little unusual in that regard, but a lot of people do. And now it ain't going to be there. And I don't think we're going to have a populace that's nearly as well informed as they are today, which is directly contrary to what we want to achieve for town meeting. More people, more involved, more informed about the issues of the day, and ready to take a position on them. I belong to an organization, it's a retirees group that has 1,500 members. We send out email blasts to all 1,500. 600 of them don't have valid email addresses. Of the 600 who get it, 30% of them open it. The other 70% never open it. So when we think we've met our responsibility for informing our audience of what's going on at town meeting, we may feel good because we sent it out in some mass mailing or made it available on the website, but they're not getting it. I'd be interested to know if you picked a town website like the town manager's newsletter, which I think is one of the best things on there, how many independent hits does that get every month? I'll bet it's not 17 or 18,000, which is what we're looking to try to inform for town meeting. So I just think this is a badly considered move, and I'd urge you to defeat it. And by the way, if we want to make another step towards sustainability, our pollen-colored sheets of paper are much more recyclable if they're white. We don't then have to dispose of the dye that goes into making the yellow paper. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Diane?
Diane Wood, 122 Depot Street, speaking on behalf of the Access to Town Meeting Committee member who support this article as written. In response to the last speaker, I do want people to be aware of the fact that there are 160 people approximately left in this field right now that are voting. So compare that to the number of households we're mailing this to, but just look around and see how many people, unfortunately, actually stay for the meeting. I acknowledge that some are wrestling with balancing inclusivity with ensuring we are mindful of the unnecessary waste associated with creating, printing, mailing, and then potentially discarding many of the 9,400 booklets or 677,000 pages of paper that will be distributed. As already stated, many steps have been taken to ensure that all voters can indeed obtain a printed booklet. Westford has been distributing these booklets for well over 30 years, and it is now time for change and to strive toward implementing town practices that are relevant with our recycling goals, the environment, and our values. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. To my right, Laura?
Laura Dickey, Bose Hill Road. I am speaking on behalf of the Westford League of Women Voters to support Article 17. We actually didn't support it back in 2011, but we are supporting this one. We feel it strikes the right balance between making sure voters are informed about annual town meeting and reducing waste. But we do encourage the town to make sure they include as much information as possible in that one page, just to let people know as much as you can. Thank you.
Thank you. And at the center microphone, Mike.
Thank you. Mike Berlinski, 37 Crown Road. Speaking on behalf of the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee, we voted to support this article, primarily as it will reduce material use. Thank you.
And at the same microphone, Carol.
Carol Morse, co-chair of Westford Climate Action. In light of the natural resources saved...
Carol, please make sure you're speaking into the mic.
Okay. In light of the natural resources that would be saved and less greenhouse gas emissions emitted from the processing and the transport of these materials, Westford Climate Action unanimously supports this article.
And Marilyn Frank at the center mic.
Thanks. Marilyn Frank, 6 Chamberlain Road. I'm 87 years old. I've lived in Westford for 52 years. I've probably come to the majority of town meetings that I could. It isn't the booklet in my mailbox. It's because I care. I looked at this and I thought, will it really affect people coming? And what I realized is that every avenue for participation is covered. We do not need the waste. I'm of an era when I used to have the rotary phone. I got used to the Apple computer. I can change, other people can change. If people care, They will find a way. This committee has absolutely covered every single avenue for people to find the booklet. If I were handicapped where I couldn't leave the house, I could make a phone call and get a personal delivery of this booklet. So I urge you to pass this article and to stop the waste.
Thank you. Seeing no further comments or questions, I'm going to call for the vote. This requires a majority vote. So if you're in favor of the motion under Article 18, oh wait, yes, Article 17, we're on Article 17, to reduce the number of Finance Committee books to be printed, please raise your orange cards. Down, please. All opposed? The motion passes. It is not unanimous. Okay, under Article 18, I have a motion to amend the zoning bylaw of the town of Westford to add 483 Groton Road to the Industrial A zoning district. Is there a second? We have the planning board to make a report. Oh, okay.
Thank you, Madam.
Dylan Connor, from the planning board,
Yep.
sorry.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Dylan O'Connor, Chair of the Planning Board. Prior to our adjournment for lunch, the Planning Board did convene a short meeting, and absent a petitioner to speak to town meeting about this article, we voted unanimously to recommend dismissal of this article. So I'd like to make that motion.
So voting against is the same as dismissal of this article. There is no petitioner here to present it. Does anybody have any questions or concerns before we take the vote? All right.
Point of order.
Sorry, I'm going as fast as I can. Just a point of order there. Voting against as opposed to dismissing, my understanding was that zoning matters can't be brought back right away? So is it the same?
I'm sorry, you're right. We're going to dismiss it, not where we are. There's a motion to dismiss on the floor. Is there a second to the motion to dismiss? Okay. There's a motion to dismiss on the floor. That's what we're going to be voting for. If you're in favor of dismissing the article, you're going to vote yes. If you're against dismissing the article, you're going to vote no. So all those in favor of dismissing the article, please raise your orange cards. Put them down, please. All opposed to dismissing the article. The motion to dismiss passes. It is not unanimous. Okay. So Article 19 was disposed of under the consent agenda. This, therefore, concludes the business of the 293rd Annual Town Meeting for the town of Westford. Thank you very much for your help and your time. Please, anyone, feel free to contact me with any ideas about improving town meeting or getting additional people to attend. And please be sure to return your clickers on the way out. Do not forget to return your clickers. Is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second? All in favor? Any opposed? See you in October.